Thank you so much, Brother Dwayne Gregory, and I want to thank you again, as I always do, for providing this platform for us to have these community conversations. Friends, you're watching and you're listening to Dwayne Gregory Presents. He is the presiding officer of the Suffolk County Legislature, and he also represents the 18th Legislative District here in Suffolk County. This government access community conversation is his brainchild, and we're so very, very delighted to be working with him. I am Andy Luter. I am joined by Tanya Luter Gordon and Rosalind Luter Aaron, and we collectively represent Luter Life Coaches. And this is a tandem and a partnership with Dwayne Gregory to introduce to you the shakers and the movers here on Long Island who impact the quality of life. Today we have the county executive from Nassau County, the person of Laura Curran, and we're so delighted that you have joined us today. Welcome to our program today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you so very, very much. Listen, before we get started, and we have so much to talk about, listen, we have literally arrested Laura Curran so that we can do two programs. So this is the first of two episodes that you will see with Laura Curran. And I want to pause ever so briefly and give both Tanya and Rosalind, who happen to be my sisters as well. Luter Life Coaches is a family enterprise. We do training, we do self-help, we do self-development, and I want them to say hello to you as well. Let's begin with Tanya.
Hello and welcome to another show. We are so excited and delighted how we're able to bring to you some of the major personalities in the Long Island and New York State region. We are extremely excited about having Nassau County Executive Laura Curran, and we are just sitting in our chairs and waiting to hear all of the wonderful things that she's doing. So welcome, and I'm sure that what we're going to do today, as what we always want to do, is to enrich your life so you can have an abundant life.
Thank you, Tanya. And Rosalind, say hello to us.
Well, welcome and greetings. We are indeed delighted to be here today, and it is a pleasure and a treat to be here with Ms. Curran. We are very, very excited about what it is that we're going to share with you today. So without further delay, let us go forward.
All right. And again, I'm Andy C. Luter, and a member of Luter Life Coaches, and delighted to be with you today. So, Ms. Curran, we've been so excited about your coming for a number of reasons. And perhaps first and foremost is one of the things that I have heard you say is that you're not a lifelong politician. I do believe that you have journalism
Correct.
in your background, and we want to talk a little bit about that. But as I take into consideration that your rise to this position, so to speak, took place in 2018, I want to connect that to the national dialogue and phenom that
Sure.
went on in this country, because a record number of women were elected to office in 2018. And I do believe that you're making history as the first woman in this particular position of
Correct.
county executive. And so what we're seeing on a local level is literally a microcosm of what's going on around the country, where we're seeing women coming forward more and more nationally. Can you talk about that for just a moment?
Sure. So as you pointed out, Dr. Luter, I came to politics, to government as a second career. I have a background as a newspaper reporter. I reported for the Daily News for many years. And I got involved in politics and government actually through my kids. When I ran for my local school board where I live in Baldwin. I wanted to make a difference in our schools, in our community, and I didn't think I'd win as a first-time person. There was already an incumbent there, but I ended up winning that position, and I loved it. I found it incredibly satisfying. And then I had the opportunity to run for county legislator, and I served 2 terms in the legislature, so that's a total of 4 years. And then I threw my hat in the ring for this position. You never know how it's going to go. And as the first woman, I never wanted to make a big deal about my gender. I didn't want to sell that to be the reason that's why you should vote for me. You know. However, I have to say, as the first woman, it makes me very proud, because I feel that I can pave the way for younger women who look to see, you know what, I can do this too. If this is something that I'm interested, or there's something else that I want to reach for, that I want to attain for, but maybe I shouldn't, I hope it gives them the courage to step up and, as I like to say, embrace the uncomfortable. Do what makes you scared, and then you never know what might happen. And honestly, if worse came to worse and I didn't win, I still would have gotten so much out of the experience of running and of just learning how things actually work. And when you talk about the broader national scene,
Yes.
I think we're seeing a little bit of people are getting fed up with the quote-unquote typical politician.
Sure. Okay.
And people are sort of disgusted right now with the dialogue, and everyone's mad at everyone, and people are unfriending each other on Facebook because of politics. So I would encourage more what I like to call normal people to run for office. More people who aren't the typical politician, because people are tuning out. In Nassau County, we only had, in the last election, we only had 27% of people actually turn out to vote who are eligible to vote. And I think because people are getting turned off, and then, but the problem is if people don't come out, they don't vote, then we don't end up with a government that truly represents the people. So I encourage more people to get involved, whether it's to vote, to run, just to be involved in one way or another in what's going on.
Great. Listen, we've gone back into your library and your archives and pulled up a little information. And in an effort to kind of create a context and help introduce people to who you are, I'm going to ask our engineer to pull up that first video. And it's about a minute long. And we're using this to kind of further introduce you. And then I want to turn the questioning over to Rosalind, who I am sure has a question or two about your early life and early career.
Sure.
Let's go to the video.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. You know, there's really no excuse to drive drunk, to drive high, to drive distracted. We do stepped up enforcements here in Nassau County for the holiday weekends. Kathleen Rice, as district attorney, led the charge. But a lot of people just aren't getting the message. Too many people are dying and getting hurt because too many people are getting behind the wheel, drunk, high, or texting. There is absolutely no excuse. So, it looks like we've got to step up our game. And I'm so happy that Congresswoman Rice is stepping up to the plate with this package, this comprehensive package of bills to prevent drunk driving and high driving, to protect our children, and to expand education. Because clearly, not enough people are getting the message that this is not acceptable and there is absolutely no excuse. I want to give a special thanks to Elisa, who lost her son less than a year ago, who can come and speak and advocate so that other kids don't have to die. Thank you.
Great. Rosalind, we're in your hands.
Well, I would like to ask how your journalism played into drawing you into public service. And I'll say public service more so than politics, because clearly you are passionate about people. And so I would ask, how did your career in journalism actually contribute to your being drawn into public service?
Oh, that's such a great question. There's actually a lot of similarities between the two. You have to talk to people.
Yes.
You have to establish a rapport with them so that they trust you, whether they're a source that you're going to be speaking to for months and months, or they're just the guy on the street that you're going to talk to for 30 seconds to get a quick quote. You have to be able to make that connection. I remember Tip O'Neill had a great saying. He said, there's a thread between you and every other person. Your job is to find it. And whether it's journalism or running for office, public service, and I like that you say that, you've got to find that thread. The other thing that was also very helpful is that it taught me to become an instant expert on everything. When you walk in the door, when you walk in the newsroom every morning, you don't know what you're going to be covering. You don't know what you're going to have to learn about. So you become an instant expert on that, and then you have to find sources that you can trust, take all of the information and synthesize it in a way that makes sense to people. And that's not dissimilar to what you do in government. You have to become you learn about the environment, public safety, economic development, whatever it may be. You've got to know a lot, and you've got to synthesize the information as quickly as you can and then make a call. Is this the right thing, or is it the wrong thing? Is this going to help people, or is it not going to help people? And then I think the third thing that is helpful is that obviously I talk to the press a lot, and I know who these people are. I'm comfortable. I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of hard questions. I'm happy to talk to reporters, and I think it's a great way to get your message out to people. You know, it's the medium. The press is the medium through which you're getting your information out.
So I have one more quick question. You mentioned your children and how that played a part in you wanting to make a difference. Can you share with us a little about where you were born, where you grew up, and, and all those good things that biographical sketch?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I was actually born in Canada. I was born in Ontario, Canada, but I moved to Belgium when I was little, when I was just a toddler. So I learned French right along with English as a kid, and then when I was about 5 or 6, we moved to the United States, and then just bounced around a lot as a kid. And then I moved to Long Island when I got, I was living in the city at the time, met the man of my dreams, bought the house in the suburbs, had the 3 kids, exactly, school down the block, the whole 9 yards. And so I've lived in Baldwin now for 22 years. That's way farther than I've lived anywhere else in my life. So I really feel that that's my home, especially because as a kid, having to move so much and make new friends, I never really felt like I had a hometown. So that's why I feel particularly attached to my community here, over there, right over the border in Nassau County.
Well, we're delighted that you're here.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Again, friends, you are watching and listening to Dwayne Gregory Presents. I am your host, actually one of 3, Andy Luter, and I am joined by 2 sisters, Tanya Luter Gordon and Rosalind Luter Aaron. We collectively represent Luter Life Coaching, and we do a number of things in a number of different areas. But in this particular regard, and in this particular vein, we are adamant about bringing to you individuals, shakers and movers, influencers here in our community that you need to know. And so we're grateful and appreciative of Dwayne Gregory for creating this government access platform that we use to meet this objective. And on behalf of myself and my 2 sisters, I want to thank you for joining us today, as well as thanking the county executive of Nassau County in the person of Laura Curran. Now, there are a number of issues and initiatives that you have launched, that you have responded to in these last 2 years. And Tanya, who is probably our public official researcher.
Yes, she's wonderful.
And I think you have met and have even talked about some possibilities. But she has a question or 2 that she'd like to raise in terms of what your initiatives are and have been.
So, County Executive Curran, you have been very proactive with addressing an issue that just came out in Newsday regarding housing discrimination. And that certainly piqued our interest because one of the areas that we are passionate about is multicultural sensitivity training.
Yeah.
And primarily that is a focus to help people that are in business, they have employees, so it can help them to be sensitive but to be aware. One of the elements we talk about is unconscious bias, which really everybody has that, but it helps you become aware of it so you can modify your behavior. So I would like to ask you, so you can elaborate on it, because it's very impressive, the initiative that you're putting forth. So if you could talk to the audience about what that is, addressing the issue in Nassau County.
Sure. So we all saw those days of pages in Newsday uncovering the housing discrimination that goes on when people are buying houses. It's something that I think we all kind of know, but to see it written about so starkly, and to see the examples, and to see what people are telling home buyers about where they should live, and kind of sort of gently steering them here or gently steering them there, it was truly troubling. But I think for all of us, it was a case of shocked but not surprised. And I was very heartened to see what the Attorney General Tish James is doing on the state level, and I wanted to see, well, what can we do on the county level? So we put together a multi-pronged platform to make sure that we're using all of our resources to combat this. And it was important to me that this was bipartisan, that we work with both Republicans and Democrats in the legislature and do this together, and we had support from the entire legislature on this. But it's strengthening our Human Rights Commission, adding an investigator and adding an administrative court judge to do increased enforcement. We're appointing one of our deputy county attorneys into a special counsel just for housing, just to watch this. We're also convening an advisory board made up of stakeholders. And this is a permanent thing. It's not just something that's going to happen and do a report and then go away. This is we're going to put real stakeholders, real advocates on this to hold our feet to the fire, to hold us accountable, to make sure that we're meeting all the benchmarks that we have to meet. And I have to say, as a Baldwin resident, I was personally insulted that one of the realtors quoted in that said, "Oh, I'm not showing houses in Baldwin because we're a diverse community," which I think that's such a great thing about my community, and I'm proud to send my kids to school with kids of all backgrounds. I think it'll just make them a better citizen of the world. And it's just that the sad fact is we have a history of racial discrimination and housing discrimination here in Nassau County, and we like to think that we're all more enlightened now, but when you see those interviews, when you see what people say, you know that the legacy lives on. And I think it's completely unfair that a child, that their fate is pretty much caught up in what zip code that they're born in. It shouldn't be like that. Not in America, not in 2019.
Sure. And you know, so many of us would like to think that we've lived past part of the pain and the prejudice and the bigotry that we've experienced and seen in the past. One of the dark moments and dark items, negative items regarding Long Island in the past, and Nassau County in particular, was the fact that Levittown, up until 1968, had covenants in place where they literally did not allow blacks to move into that community until the death of Martin Luther King in 1968. Right. And so we would like to think, because 1968 is so far back, we would like to think that that is so in the distant past that it doesn't touch the present. How do we overcome this legacy? You've talked about it to a great degree, but what additional kinds of things can we do to make sure that the kinds of Levittowns in the past do not become the Levittowns of our future?
Well, one of the things that was so striking in this Newsday series was that a lot of people of color, didn't realize what was happening. They just accepted what the realtor said. "Oh, this is a better community for me because of blah, blah, and blah." Well, they didn't realize that this was actually happening. And I think part of what we want to do is get more information out there. So we're going to launch social media, news, whatever kinds of platforms we can get it out on to educate people about what the housing laws are, what your rights are, and what resources there are out there. There are some wonderful nonprofits out there. There's wonderful resources, but it's an issue of connecting people with those resources, making sure people know what their rights are, making sure that they know that this is a possibility where I could be discriminated against. What do I look for to make sure it doesn't happen to me and my family?
And what remedies are there? Where should people turn to?
Right.
Who should they call if they find themselves victimized by this lingering mentality?
Exactly, because it is against the law. And one thing that I find is incredibly important to include the realtors in this. Yes. You know, because they're not all like that. At least half didn't do it in this. So we need to get their input. What do they need? How can they be part of the solution? We want people to buy houses. We want to encourage economic development. We want to attract more families to Nassau County. And I do think that realtors can be part of the solution, and they have to be included as well.
And since we're talking about realtors, I'm going to kind of come back to Tanya, because one of the things that we pride ourselves on is doing diversity training and helping to sensitize the community and members of the community to these harsh realities. And so in that vein, what would you say?
Well, you know, that speaks to the heart of the problem, right? The real estate agents, because as you said, it's not all of them. It's not all of the companies, but it just happens to be some of the probably more popular, some of the larger
big
real
brands,
estate. Exactly,
the big brands.
Exactly. And oftentimes we find with multicultural sensitivity training, it is an eye-opener for people, because sometimes people just don't even realize the negative impact they're having on communities. Now, of course, right now, I know they probably feel like they're in the line of fire, which they are, right? Because everybody's talking about it. I mean, it's just huge, the article in and of itself. But we find that when we work with people in this space, that it helps them to become more aware, because when you know better, you do better.
Exactly.
And, you know, some of the things that we were reading, even though it was so disheartening, we said to ourselves, but you know what? It's like re-educating people so they can change their behavior. And you might not do 100%, but even if you can get 90% or 85%, it'll make a major difference.
Absolutely.
We know in Long Island specifically.
And you used a phrase that's very powerful, and that's unconscious bias.
Yes.
That's very difficult to confront. because people want to think that they're good people. They don't want to
Right.
That's right. Don't
sometimes have to
acknowledge.
confront the truth.
Right. Right.
And in that particular regard, let me kind of shift gears just a little bit and ask you about the team and the staff that you put together. One of the things that we're so excited about are the number of people that have jumped on board the Lauren Curran train, express that I like to call it.
Yeah.
Like Tanya Carter, who we had as a guest not
Yes.
too terribly long
I
ago.
saw the show. It was very good.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great.
And of course, she represents civic, political, and religious connections. And then Lionel Harvey, who is now part of your team. So talk to us about some of the people you have surrounded yourself with in pursuit of diversity, but of governing in a way that is representative of all.
Right. When I was campaigning, I said I'm going to hire based on what you know, not who you know.
Oh.
Although I have to say, whenever Tanya Carter and I are out, she knows everybody.
Yes, she does.
She knows this one. It's amazing. I am so lucky to have the team that I have. I have the best department heads, the best deputy county executives.
Yeah.
I have really smart people who are in it for the right reasons. And I wanted to make sure that I was hiring people for the right reasons. So when I won, one of the first things I did after I took office was assign an executive order that said that anyone I appoint cannot donate to my campaigns, they cannot raise money for my campaigns, and also they can't hold any leadership position in a political party. Because I wanted there to be no question as to why they're there. They're there because they're the right person for the job.
Indeed.
Yeah, and it makes my job so much more satisfying because we're getting things done. You know, we're moving forward on a development around the hub at the Coliseum. We're moving forward in building a police academy for the first time in decades. We're moving forward on all of these things that have been stuck for decades. We're finally pushing them and getting them done. And we just settled a lawsuit that had been going. Actually, was a affordable housing lawsuit, a housing discrimination lawsuit that was launched 15 years ago. We recently got that settled. So there was a lot of stuckness in the county. Things just weren't moving. So I'm lucky to have this team. We're always looking to, as I say, get to yes. Let's find a way to get it done. It's not easy, but it's very, very satisfying work.
Great. Listen, friends, you are listening to and watching Dwayne Gregory Presents. I am Andy C. Luda, your host, along with Tanya Luda Gordon and Rosalind Luda Aaron. We're here today with the County Executive of Nassau County, Laura Curran. We're having this vibrant conversation and exchange, and we're just delighted that she is here with us. I'm going to ask our engineer if he would cue up this second video. We just want to kind of take a look at you at work. And
Sure.
so we've done a little research and we pulled together some things that kind of show you in the field and show what kind of county executive you actually are.
I know it's a very busy time of year, June, with graduations and everything else going on, but the fact that you took time out of your lives to honor our local heroes is very, very meaningful. So thank you. I also want to give a special thanks to our Parks Department. I know Pat mentioned them, but they worked very, very hard to make this as beautiful as they can for this event, and we thank them. I would like to begin by recognizing the officials of the Nassau County Veterans Monument Fund, without whom this memorial would not be here today. These are veterans who fought for our freedom and safety, protecting our precious freedoms, and then, when they came back, took it upon themselves to form this private organization to fund the POW and Vietnam memorials you see here. I would like to specifically recognize Jerry Delaportis. I don't know if he's the oldest, but he is the only original member of the Monument Fund. He's right here with us today. Say hello, Jerry. And he's dedicated over 20 years to this very beautiful cause. And of course, we've got to thank Angelo Chiata, who's right behind me, Angelo, for his dedication to this Veterans Plaza, 9/11 Memorial, and our wonderful Veterans Museum. If you haven't had a look inside, it's a very magical place. Just right in there, you can go in.
Well, friends, that takes up just about all of our time, and we certainly want to thank you for yours. We're here today with Laura Curran, who is the County Executive of Nassau County. Now, just before we broke for the video, you were beginning to outline and identify some of the initiatives, some of the items that is on the table and that you're looking to pursue. And one of the things that I get a sense of, Ms. Curran, is that you're not doing this to impress the electorate for political purposes, but because it is just good governing. Talk a bit about those things that you're doing, not for a political advantage or leverage, but because it is what Nassau County needs in this day and time.
You know, my goal in my tenure as county executive is to leave it better than I found it, so that the next county executive who takes over will have an easier time of sorting things out. And one of the most difficult things we did was right at the very beginning, and that was the first reassessment in almost a decade, assessment of property values. It was very difficult to do. No, everyone else was afraid to touch it, but I felt I'm here to do a specific job. I campaigned on it, and I'm committed to getting this right. And you know, it was difficult. It's politically difficult because it just reminds everyone how high our taxes are on Long Island and in Nassau County. But when we found that Newsday did its own independent analysis, the state did its own independent analysis, experts from around the country looked at it with no skin in the game, and they all said, well, you can't get much closer to accurate than they've gotten with this reassessment. That showed me that it's important to do the right thing for the right reasons, not the wrong thing for my own reasons.
Okay. Well, again, friends, I'm Andy C. Luter, and you're watching and listening to Dwayne Gregory Presents. Our guest today is Laura Curran, Nassau County Executive. We've been having a vibrant conversation, and we're going to bring this particular episode to a close, but stay tuned because we're going to bring her back for a second episode, and that will be airing at some point in the future. But I want to thank her for being with us today. I also want to thank my co-hosts, Tanya Luter Gordon and Rosalind Luter Aaron. And again, on the behalf of Luter Life Coaches, thank you for joining us today. Tanya, do you want to share with us a closing word? And then Rosalind, a closing word as well. And then we'll sign off for this particular episode.
Well, you know, my sign off always is that we have a mandate on our lives, and that our parents poured so much into us. And that is why the brainchild of Dr. Luter is Luter Life Coaches, because we feel that we have been so blessed and with opportunities, and we want to be able to make your life more abundant. And now Bishop tried to take my tagline the last time we met, but I am so excited about being able to provide any support, any encouragement that's going to help you be a better person that you are today for your family, for your co-workers, and your centers of influence. So thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
Rosalind.
Yes, we are delighted as always to share with you all that which is going to make a difference going forward. I am so delighted and excited for having Ms. Curran here today, because it speaks to my passion. It speaks to my passion as it relates to being a youth leadership motivational speaker. And I say that because it is so encouraging to know that there is a pathway forward for our youth to be the leaders we so desperately need them to be. And you set a perfect example, because my goal is to encourage, inspire, and empower this and future generations to be the leaders we so desperately need them to be. So thank you, Ms. Curran. We are delighted that you are here today.
And I also want to thank Nassau County Executive Laura Curran for spending this time with us. We know she has a busy schedule, and so this is very, very precious time that she has given to us, and we know that this has certainly enriched your life for you to hear from her today.
Thank you again, friends. Let me take you back to Dwayne Gregory for his closing comments.
We have reached the conclusion of this show, and I hope you have found it to be very informative. Until next time, Presiding Officer Dwayne Gregory.